Dynasty is denied. And one of the oldest trophies in Canada's history will go to one of its oldest franchises, the Toronto Argonauts.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Touchdown, wow! Just a phenomenal effort. And here we go again.
Explosive. That's what the CFL's all about.
What a turn of events this is!
This is why you love Canadian football, right here.
Another CFL season is officially set to kick off. 9 teams vying for a spot to play here at Tim Hortons Field in November for the 110th Grey Cup. Will we have a new champion, or will the Double Blue roll into enemy territory and repeat? Welcome to the Season Preview Show on TSN. Everyone, Kate Burness, alongside David Sanchez, Matt Dunigan, Milt Stiegel. Wonderful to see your faces. Ches, are you nice and relaxed and rested for the season?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excited.
Hold on, it's wonderful to see his face.
Yeah, I'm picking favorites
You don't have your
already.
contacts in, do you?
No, I mean, after last season, everyone thought, you know what, they were hard on Davis, so I wanted to start it off with
with
just a
some
nice,
love- with some love?
with a little bit of love.
I like it.
All right, so here's what's coming up on this show today. It's going to be a great one, to say the least. I went to Hamilton, Ontario, to speak with one and only Bo Levi Mitchell about being part of his new team, the expectations in BC for Vernon Adams Jr., Winnipeg's excellence, how long will it last, and a feature with Chad Kelly, of course, his Uncle Jim, involved in that one as they sat down with our Dave Naylor. Obviously, we're excited for a brand new season here on the CFL on TSN. What are you looking forward to, Ches?
Well, you could tell me about your Bo sit down, and that could give me some information, 'cause I don't know what to expect there.
All right.
And it was interesting. We talked about it a little bit, guys. So Bo gets benched, or they decide to move in favor of Jake Mayer and move on from the great, potential, or not potential, but soon to be Hall of Famer in Bo Levi Mitchell. But then 3 months go by, and Bo was the backup, and then he was the hottest free agent in the league. It was, where's Bo gonna go? But so to me, I look at how this plays out, and he's at a new team. He's with Tommy, who's a great play caller. He's got now Scott Milanovic helping as well. He's got weapons and a place that's hungry for football. But what Bo are we getting?
Yeah.
Is it the Bo of past and the future Hall of Famer, or is it a guy that got sat down and Jake Mayer took over? That's the question, and I think all are excited. If preseason has anything to say about it, he looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, because his career was going the wrong way. And he's got new life, going to a new team in Hamilton. And it's going to be a challenge for Bo. And I think he's up for that challenge. And otherwise, we'll see a lot of Matthew Schultz. And, but I really believe that the quarterback carousel continues in the Canadian Football League, a league that's driven by quarterbacks. And, you get Trevor Harris. He's over there with Jeffries now as his OC in Saskatchewan. He's number 13 in our top 50. Cody Fajardo, he goes to Montreal. He's with Jason Moss and Anthony Calvillo over there. And you got Bo. We talked about him in Hamilton, along with Tommy Condell and Scott Milanovic. You got Chad Kelly. He's taking over the reins for Toronto as MBT goes south. And you got Vernon Adams taking over in BC. 4-4 last year for the BC Lions, trying to keep that going. And I think in Jordan McSimick's offense, Milt, I think this could be a really good match for the BC Lions. But a lot of movement and young guys taking over. Taylor Cornelius, third year in the league, he takes over the reins once again. I think he's going to be much improved. You got Jake Mayer in Calgary. And, of course, you got Zach in Winnipeg. And you're one play away from Drew Brown, who we don't know a lot about. So a lot of movement, which is typical in the Canadian Football League, once again, that is driven by quarterbacks.
Driven by quarterbacks like no other. Two biggest stories for me are Chad Kelly stepping in Toronto after McLeod Bethel Thompson led his team to the Grey Cup. Of course, Chad Kelly stepped in, but his experience is not there. He has as many rushes as he has passes. But the man for me right now is Vernon Adams Jr.
Yeah.
How is he going to step in for Nathan Rourke? Nathan Rourke did so much not only for the BC Lions and that organization, but the entire profits. Yes, Omar Doman is doing a lot. He's bringing in artists, LL Cool J, but it was Nathan Rourke when he stepped on the field. Vernon Adams has to find a way to keep that momentum going. They have fans back. We see Sanchez jerseys in the stands, and when that happens, you know things are big. So I'm excited for what Vernon Adams is going to do. Also for Chad Kelly. So those are the two biggest stories for me.
You know Davis paid those people to wear his jersey.
Without a doubt.
There's no doubt in my mind. Needless to say, lots to look forward to for the 2023 CFL season. But for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, this is a monster one once again. Coming up just short the last time they hosted the Grey Cup. They are sitting on a 24-year Grey Cup drought. That has been since 1999 that they last hoisted the trophy with the Grey Cup at Tim Hortons Field this November. Maybe this is finally the year, and maybe, just maybe, Bo Levi Mitchell can lead them there.
The Hamilton Tiger Cats shook up the CFL this offseason by trading for the rights and then signing quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell. It's the end of his career as a Calgary Stampeder, and as remarkable as it was, the door now officially opens for Mitchell in Steeltown.
Kate, how are you?
Welcome. First of all, I just want to talk about the city itself. We know the rich history of Hamilton, Ontario when it comes to the CFL, but I mean, after a decade in Calgary, having new surroundings, what has that felt like to you early on?
It's been awesome because you get to learn first. For me, my wife, Madison, and the girls, it was getting in the car and driving around. Just learning the different ways, you know, out to Waterdown or Burlington, and just different areas, and learning just kind of what the whole city is about. Getting up on top of the mountain now, learning the city, but then running into people. And to me, it's the early expectations, which I love.
How do you think you're going to get their respect early on?
To me, earn it. You know, I think don't rely on anything that I've done in the past. You know, I think I said that when I signed, is that, you know, anything I did, that person, that's not me. That's something I've done. But for me, they're only going to judge me on what I do for them, for our team, for our city.
Why Hamilton? What made you choose the Hamilton Tiger Cats?
You know, for me, I'm all about winning. I looked at the teams, I looked around. It's not to say anything against anybody else, but I looked at the team with coaching staff, head coach, OC, DC, and the players they had core-wise around them, and this is where I thought was going to be the best chance to win.
Were the Argos ever one of those teams?
Yeah. I mean, I think I didn't really cross out any teams, and for me, I think legacy is the thing that pushed it over the top. I looked at Hamilton, I saw the coaching staff, the players, and I saw the fact that we haven't won a Grey Cup since '99. And in my mind, to cement a legacy, to build upon that, it was to be able to bring the Grey Cup home back here.
Signing day. Your wife Madison walks in, your two adorable daughters. Are they used to seeing you in the new colors yet?
At first, they weren't. You know, I think Ellie, when I told her I was going to sign with the new team, and she was like, "Oh, so does that mean like we go there and then we come back?" And I was like, "No, baby, like we're going there, like we're going to be a Tiger Cat." And then at first, she didn't understand it because she was like, "Oh, I thought we were a Stampeder. Like I want to be a Stampeder for life." And then we got here, and it was black and gold. It was she loves it. She loves everything about it. And they've been wearing the colors ever since.
The Grey Cup is here. It was here 2 years ago. It was heartbreaking with the Bombers winning at Tim Hortons Field.
Oh, nearly intercepted. It is! And it's over! And heartbreak for the city of Hamilton.
The added pressure, knowing that that is the ultimate goal, does that weigh on this team or yourself at all?
You get questions about it all the time, and as a player, you don't think about it that way, about where the Grey Cup is. And I just think any fan wants to be able to have it won in their hometown. You know, and obviously the team, we would all love to. I don't think it really adds pressure to it, you know, but I think you can see the organization, the staff is making a big push to make sure that we can do everything we can, the best of their ability to make it happen.
You really like the Ricky Ray comparison. So Ricky obviously has the tremendous career out in Edmonton. And then a lot of people question, are you too old? Are you done with this game at this point? Did you make the right decision? He subsequently goes on to win another 2 Grey Cups with the Toronto Argos, 4 started, 4 won.
Pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying, honestly, I wasn't trying to bring that up, but yes, obviously he beat you in one of those. But needless to say, I mean, I think the comparisons are fantastic at your age, what you're trying to do, coming to a new city, a new team.
You know when they're doing the 40-yard dash.
And they have like the ghost runner.
Yeah,
going,
the ghost runner, right? Like they show the guy running the 4.3, and then the guy that, you know, the ghost runner behind him, kind of showing him what he's doing is trying to, emulate what Ricky did in going to a new team and not making it a one-year thing and then going to another team. It's going and cementing a second legacy, a second career.
So you're going to win 3 Grey Cups, not 2 Grey Cups, and outdo him on that 40-yard dash.
I would absolutely.
This is what I've gotten from this conversation. When it comes down to the legacy of Bo Levi Mitchell, what ultimately do you want that to be?
Winner. I mean, in every sense of the word, it was, win the day, seize the day. Whenever you talk about me, it's, hey, he didn't have the best arm, wasn't the fastest guy, he's kind of fat. But at the end of the day, he got the job done.
Thrilled to welcome in now the coach, Jim Barker. And Jim, we're just watching that feature too, and I like what you were saying about the comparison to Ricky Ray too. Ricky didn't lose his job, and Bo did lose his job to Jake Maier. But overall, this is a second shot for him. And this is an opportunity for him to do something that hasn't been done in Hamilton for a very long time and obviously win the ultimate prize for the first time since 1999. What are your expectations on Bo Levi Mitchell?
Well, it doesn't matter what I expect. What matters is the organization in Hamilton. They expect to win the Grey Cup this year. Not make it to the Grey Cup like they did in 21, but to win the Grey Cup. And that's why Bo Levi's there. He's not there for any other reason. All the others, they believe he can bring them back to that. So they've completely redone their team. Their offensive line completely new. They've made some changes in the receiving core. But, I think about Bo Levi, and we had Ricky. We brought him. And I think at first Ricky didn't really want to come to Toronto. But then as he got here and just the newness and a different coaches and different way of doing things. Matt, that's got to be exciting for a player. I know you've gone through that.
Yeah, change of venue. I went through it a bunch. Damon, myself, Tracy, we went through it a bunch. And but we took the same things that made us successful in one organization, took it to the next. And that's certainly what Hamilton is banking on right here, because if you look at the last 3 years, Bo's thrown 19 touchdowns to 11 picks, 10 to 13 picks, and 9 to 6 picks in the last 3 years successively. And that's because he's been injured. Now, they're hoping they get a healthy Bo Levi Mitchell. And if he can stay healthy and get James Butler going, get a great communication going, Tim White with an outstanding defense, the organization is set. They're just looking for that all-star quarterback to have a bounce-back year and a healthy year. And if they get that, they could be right there.
Yeah, there's enough talent around him, to say the least, to make it all the way to the Grey Cup. And there's a buzz, too. I know I was sitting in a bar there with Bo, but there's a buzz to this city, and they hope that they can not just get there, but as you said, too, win the whole thing. All right, coming up after the break, plenty more on the preview show. So with Bo and the Hammer, it's Jake Maier time in Calgary. The panel chats the pressure on the QB heading into the season as the #1 for the very first time. CFL kicks off on Thursday night with the Lions taking on the Stampeders. You can see at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific with more on the Stamps. Let's head over to Milton Ches.
Yeah, the Jake is in office. The mayor is in office. Jake Maier is his team. Bo Levi Mitchell was allowed to go to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and some may say there is no pressure on Jake. I disagree because all the pieces are in place for this man to be successful. He has the top running game in the league. Great offensive line. Best offensive line. Only gave up 15 sacks last year. Great receivers. Bagleton and Malik Henry. I don't know the health of Phil Pop, but he has enough there to make it happen. So it's all on him. He needs to step in and play a lot better than what he did last year. He started maybe the last 10 or 11 games and only had one game over 300 yards. So Dave Diggs and that organization is looking a lot more from Jake Maier. If not, they may have to impeach him maybe.
I talked to Dave this morning, actually, and what he said was Jake has complete, total control over the offense, which was new because this is only the first time being a training camp in his team, right? After Bo, by the way, not traded, like I said, or not a free agent, like I said earlier, but, of course, traded to Hamilton. Now, do you think his weapons, those receivers, you say great receivers, you say great or average receivers?
Above average,
okay.
Yes.
So he's got the weapons, he's got control. And one thing Dave said to me, which really stood out, he told me this last year at the beginning of the season. I think it was the first or second week of the season when Bo was clearly the starter. He said that Jake Maier is at his best, and by a significant difference at his best when the bright lights are up and when the lights are on. And so he really didn't know a lot about Jake until he saw him in the game action. You couldn't tell in preseason and practice what he was all about. I think that translates to the game, too. It's his team. When the pressure's on, that's what he's all about. I think the fact that it's his squad, a lot of pressure on him, I think we'll see the best of Jake Mara, and so does Dickey.
The BC Lions need Vernon Adams as badly as Vernon Adams needed the BC Lions. Really a win-win here if he can play well for them.
Takes it into the end zone, hanging in the air. Touchdown, Lions.
It's not about perfection. It's about progression.
Adams escapes, still going. A 24-yard run for big play VA.
This is the Vernon Adams they've been waiting for.
Joined now by another member of our team, Paul LaPolice. And Lapo, it is the Vernon Adams Jr. era in BC. No longer are we going to be talking about Nathan Rourke unless we're watching his film Down South. But for VA, I mean, this is a huge opportunity once again for him. And you've been speaking to some of the players in that organization. What are they saying about their QB?
Yeah, Kate. The first thing's important for a quarterback to understand is they got to provide hope for the building, for the players, for the fans. But the other thing, great quarterbacks, they raise the play of the players around them. Some guys do it with their athletic ability, their toughness. Some guys take the blame for everything that goes wrong in the course of a game, a season. And then other guys do it with the relationships they have with other guys. And I spoke to Lucky Whitehead this week. The interesting thing, he talked about the entire receiving corps, flew out to Seattle, stayed in a hotel, worked on football for a couple days, all on Vernon's dime. And, you know, Lucky was interesting when I talked to him. He was really excited about the relationships they were creating. But he talked more about, Coach, it was on Easter Sunday. We had Easter dinner, all the receivers with their family. And, you know, then we talked about Easter egg hunts and everything. He wasn't talking about football. Vernon's building a relationship with his guys that he can use down the stretch. I talked to Vernon yesterday, and I asked him what he wanted to do better as a leader. He talked, Kate, about the things outside the building, making sure that he takes care of his body, does the right things, make sure he's in the office consistently early. He wants to be a more consistent early riser, making sure he gets all his work done, and then taking care of his body, so that can help him stay and play for 18 games through the course of the season.
And hopefully all of that can transfer to the field for the BC Lions this season. Appreciate it, Lapo. Can't wait to see you in studio.
Thank you.
All right, coming up after the break, after a heartbreaking loss to end last season, can the Bombers get back to the pinnacle of the league? The panel discusses Winnipeg's greatness right after this.
This guy, Zach Collaros, he's been nothing but magical for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Scrambles away from some pressure, has a man, and it's caught. Come on. What a show from Zach Collaros.
Getting away from the pressure into the end zone and a touchdown. Winnipeg.
So good on the run. So good under pressure. Zach Collaros does it again. On his feet, rolling to his right, looking down the field towards the end zone. Touchdown, Winnipeg. Some magic from Collaros.
Well, in case you missed it, here are the top 5 players voted by our panel in our 2023 CFL Top 50 list. Winnipeg quarterback Zach Collaros, #1 for back-to-back seasons. The Edmonton Elks' big offseason signing. Gino Lewis voted #2, and rounding out the top 3 is Kadeem, Cash, and Carey. You can see the full list right now, by the way, on tsn.ca. With more on Zach Collaros, here's Marshall Ferguson.
Oftentimes when a quarterback wins a major award like the Heisman Trophy, Heck Crichton, NFL MVP, even the CFL MOP, people believe it might be because they touched the ball the most on the team that won the most games. For Zach Collaros being at the top of the CFL and TSN Top 50 players list, that's simply not true. He is the best player in the Canadian Football League, and here's why. He absolutely knows when to go for the kill.
Pressure's coming. Takes a look to the end zone for Dembski. Touchdown, Winnipeg.
Zach Collaros on deep balls last season completed 47 for over 1,400 yards and 24 touchdowns. If you don't like that, 51 touchdown drives also led the Canadian Football League. But what matters the most is the player that was ahead of him in many statistical categories, Nathan Rourke. When they went head-to-head, Collaros got the best of him.
Collaros, he's going to waste no time. Alex in, got him. Touchdown, Winnipeg.
Now, I know quarterbacks don't go head-to-head and beat each other, but it was absolutely a statement game when Winnipeg went into Vancouver early last season and told everybody that Collaros and the Bombers, they were here to stay. The only real time Collaros didn't answer the bell and make a big play down the stretch to get his team over the hump in the Grey Cup. Consider it just another log on the fire that burns inside the best player in the CFL, Zach Collaros.
And you Bombers lost that Grey Cup game. They are coming in this season hot. Ches, you look at this roster too. It is absolutely loaded once again. It's season after season of greatness for this team.
Yeah, and when I saw the free agent signing of Kenny Lawler, that to me is, when I looked at the team last year, I looked at the offense, I thought, this is a really good offense. I'm trying to pick holes or find weakness, or if I'm a defense, where do you attack this team? To me, the only thing, and I don't even think it was a strong, but they had a bunch of good receivers, but nobody that I thought was great one-on-one and that could win. Now, you will probably argue what you saw Dalton Schoen do last year, that he was one-on-one and he was winning, and he was. A lot of that, I think, was on the scramble and the relationship that they have, which is all part of being a good receiver. But the fact they have Kenny Lawler now, and not for the first few games, but once they have him with that running game to lean on, and Zach, doing what he does, I just think that this offense and this team, there's just no weaknesses. One thing, a few new faces in the starting secondary, but other than that, look pretty good.
Yeah, Davis, this team just melds together just beautifully, and everybody understands their roles. And I think they police themselves in that locker room, which is a big thing for winning championships and getting the most out of what you have. And I think it starts with the big boys up front on both sides of the football. I think that's where they've kind of made their living and really honed in on what this football team is as far as their character, because they just want to maul you, and they do it on both sides of the football, and it starts there. But I really think that oftentimes, when you talk about maybe not having a standout, I think Dalton was amazing last year, right? In the absence of Kenny going to Edmonton, this kid stepped up. And then Rasheed Bailey had, I think, a really step-out season and really came into his own. But they all just came together, Milt. And there's not enough said about what Buck Pierce has done with that offense since taking over, and as well as Richie Hall on a consistent basis, finding players year after year to keep them contenders and keeping that culture in the locker room.
Saying great things about the Bombers. I love it. Well, what I'm going to say is not so great. What I'm going to say is the window will close on the foundation, the nucleus on this team after this year. I say that because Father Time is undefeated. Adam Bighill, 34. Stanley Bryan, 37. Zach Collaros, 34. Jackson Jeffcoat, 32. Willie Jefferson, 32. Mike Miller, 34. Patrick Newfield, 34. Jamarcus Hardrick, 33. Wow. All those guys will not be back next year. They can't stand pat. I don't care if they go 18-0 and win the Grey Cup. They will start making changes. So those guys need to understand this is the final run for the nucleus, for the majority of the nucleus of this team this year.
But all I hear all the time is Milt Stiegel, 53, can still play in the league.
That's right.
That's all I hear every season. So I don't know why you're rolling off everyone.
Can we play without getting hit? Can we do that? Well, I can't play.
Stiegel, exactly. All right, we're just getting warmed up on the season preview show. And don't forget to, if the Bombers can pull it off, because they've appeared in the last 3 Grey Cups. If they go one more, they're going to join some very elite territory here. Edmonton, the last team to do it with 6, ending that run in 1982. Hamilton back in 1965, and of course, when the Riders in Regina, 1932, they went to 5 straight as well. Joined now by our CFL insider, Dave Naylor, and thank goodness you're here, Dave, because each and every year there are a few rules, 1 or 2, that we really need some clarity on. And you just tried to explain this one to me. It's a bit of a head scratcher, but you have a nice way to wrap it up.
Yeah, this one's a doozy, and it was part of the CBA negotiation between the CFL and the CFLPA last spring that actually delayed things and led to the strike. And it has to do with some American players being able to replace some Canadian players. If you are a nationalized American player, that is an American player with at least 3 years with the same team or 5 years in the CFL, you may replace a Canadian starter or backup up to 23 snaps per game. And each team can designate one American player in this class for each side of the ball for each game, and they have to designate the Canadian players that could be replaced. Now, there is, I think, some trepidation across the league about how this is actually going to work. The league is going to have spotters. They will monitor this. Teams will be warned when the player is down to 5 snaps, 3 snaps, 1 snap eligible. I think it'll be interesting to see how this works. It gives coaches a little more flexibility, but it does make the game, both for players, coaches, and fans, a little more complicated.
I can say this will be the first time on the panel we're actually tracking snaps at this point. 23 is the max.
That is it. 23 per game, each side of the ball.
All right, we will be watching. Appreciate the clarity on that one, our Dave Naylor. Coming up, we take a look at the new look Alouettes, and can Trevor Harris lead the Riders back to the promised land? You're watching the 2023 CFL Preview Show on TSN.
Cody Fajardo has been benched in favor of Mason Fine.
This was a quarterback that was supposed to get you to the Grey Cup in a year that Regina's hosting.
I don't think it's the end of the Cody Fajardo football book. I think it might just be the end of a chapter.
Montreal Alouettes will make Fajardo their starting quarterback in 2023.
There's going to be a lot of pressure on Cody Fajardo to go out and lead this team to the playoffs.
Well, the Montreal Alouettes only had one player in the top 50. We weren't on that show, but we were talking off air, JB, and we agree. You really want to know the top 20 players in the league, just look at the salary structure, what GMs are willing to pay guys. That will tell you the importance to them on their respective teams. Look at Montreal. Look, this is Cody Fajardo going over there. One of the big things, I spoke to Jason Moss, is he really understands that system. He's been in that system, whether it was with him or with when he was in Toronto. He was in SAS. He was in that system, so he understands that system. And one of the great things about Cody when healthy, which he wasn't last year for a lot of it, he's great with his legs. Now, the Alouettes feel like if they don't have the best offensive line in the league, they have one of the best. They love their running back, and he's 225 and chiseled is the description I got of William Stanback. So the guy that understands the system, he's great with his legs, a great offensive line, and they'll be physical. We know that about Montreal.
I honestly believe this is the perfect spot for Cody Fajardo. William Stanback, I was out at practice and watched them in training camp. William Stanback, I thought he looked like he's 210. I mean, I thought he was Milt Stegall for a minute, but he's 230. I mean, he is in phenomenal shape. Cody Fajardo, his ability to threaten the linebackers and the run lanes for those linebackers is going to open up creases for him and Walter Fletcher. I think you're going to see Walter Fletcher in the backfield with Stanback quite a bit. So I think Cody Fajardo is the right person for this, obviously. Their receiving core is a big question mark. Their offensive line, I'll put him against anybody.
You like him, yeah.
Peel Lestage, I think, is one of the best players in the league that nobody knows about.
Tough guy.
You know, he just is. And Christian Matt has been there, and Landon Rice. They have a veteran group. Can that receiving core help them out? Their defense is going to be small. They're going to be fast, but I think they'll be good enough to be able to keep them in games. Noel Thorpe has a reputation for he will keep you in the game.
Absolutely. Let's toss this over to two legends who have one thing in common: massive egos.
Thanks, Chess. We'll talk about that later. Right now, let's get into it. You got Trevor Harris taking over this football team, and Craig Dixon, head coach. He's on the line. The jobs are on the line for this organization, and all eyes from the Rider Nation are looking at Trevor Harris and what he can do. But it's going to start with Kelly Jeffries, his offensive system, as well as that offensive line. Now you go from Cody Fajardo, who we always talked, he didn't have the strongest arm, but what he did, he would compete on the football field and pull it down and make it happen. Right. But now you got Trevor Harris, who really doesn't have a strong arm either, right? But he sees the field so well. He sees the field so well, the ball's out so quickly, and he's deadly accurate, and he will slice and dice you. But he got to establish things, Milt, in my opinion, with that offensive line and running the football with Jamal Morrow and Frankie Hickson, who was a bright spot last year for this football team. And this is where they got to make their bread and butter happen. And Trevor Harris will help out tremendously if he has that run game working for him.
Right. Trevor Harris is what, 30, 36?
He's getting up there.
He's getting there, 36.
Cody's kid.
If that offensive line is not better than what they were last year, he won't make it through the year.
No Cody Fajardo.
No, exactly. And they made some improvements. Philip Blake. They also signed Colin Kelly. They also got a guy, a former NFL guy, who they're expecting a lot. So they're going to make some changes because they can't stand pat with that offensive line. I think they're going to be better. They gave up, over 70 sacks last year?
A lot.
So they had to make some changes there. If that offensive line is stout, like I say, I love their returner, Mario Alford. He'll create some field position for them. They got some good defensive players. They can compete, but it's all based on what that offensive line can do.
Agreed right there, for sure. Kate?
All right, well, coming up, he stepped up when it mattered the most. But what can Chad Kelly do as a full-time starter? Dave Naylor sits down with the Argos QB and his legendary uncle. Coming off an unexpected brilliant performance at the Grey Cup, all eyes are now on Chad Kelly to see how he handles taking the reins as the Argonauts' starting QB. It hasn't been the smoothest path to this point for the 29-year-old, but he's hoping that this opportunity will allow him to prove to everyone he's grown up and ready for the challenge. And no one is cheering him on more than his Hall of Fame uncle.
In the heart of Western New York, in a home that fittingly is a 12-minute drive from Highmark Stadium, lives Bills legend Jim Kelly.
This guy right here, Jim. Oh my goodness! Goal line to goal line. Okay.
Jim Kelly hails from coal country, East Brady, Pennsylvania, about 70 miles outside of Pittsburgh. He is one of 5 Hall of Fame quarterbacks from the same region.
You got Joe Montana, me, like a Joe Namath, and Johnny Unitas, and Dan Marino.
Today, former Sugar Bowl MVP Chad Kelly is visiting his uncle.
My life just smacked him upside his head. Yeah. I was a Steeler fan growing up, of course, and my idol was Terry Bradshaw on the field, Joe Namath off the field. Now, I think everybody out there knows why. That was back in the day where we were out in the backyard. I would be, lead my team down the field with 2 minutes to go to the Super Bowl. And the dreams of playing professional football, more for me than anything, was being able to take care of mom and dad.
Moments ago, he arrived, Jim Kelly, along with Ralph Wilson, now holding up the number 12 jersey, which he's going to be wearing for the Buffalo Bills.
Chad Kelly was born in Western New York. Number 12 became his godfather.
You were just a toddler when your uncle's NFL career was coming to an end. What are your earliest memories about your Uncle Jim?
Earliest memories were probably pictures.
When you were growing up, it was Bills, Bills, Bills all the time. Just tell me a little bit about, growing up, with your uncle's career just recently over in Western New York.
I mean, he doesn't know this, but, I was so scared just of calling him on the phone.
Why were you afraid to call him?
He was like a superhero, He literally was a superhero.
Did you try to be like your uncle?
I definitely wanted to be able to, be more of a runner.
He was a lot better athlete than I was. Yeah, I mean, he ran a 4.6. I ran a 4.3 in a 30. One of the things with Chad is when we put him into the pump, pass, and kick, I competed in it, and I never won it. He's the only kid to win it not once, not twice, but 4 times.
My football goal is hopefully get drafted in the NFL and be just as good as my uncle, if not better.
But the journey didn't go as planned.
He's been a very vocal quarterback. It's no secret that he wasn't coming there to sit on the bench.
Big part of this position is maturity and leadership.
Clemson quarterback Chad Kelly has been dismissed from the program.
Some things that I shouldn't be doing, I shouldn't have did.
Over the weekend, Kelly was arrested after police say he got into a late-night fight with bouncers at Encore Bar in downtown Buffalo.
You knew there were times that you, in your words, tarnished the Kelly name.
Yeah, I think I just tried being a tough guy. I remember growing up and, people talking crazy about, my uncle or my father. I had to learn the hard way that I can't react. I gotta think before I react.
And the Ole Miss Rebels are going to beat Bama for the first time in Tuscaloosa since 1988.
As a quarterback, as a Kelly, you know, there's a different type of pressure, right?
Ole Miss with a dominant performance over Oklahoma State, 48-20. They are the All-State Sugar Bowl champions.
If I don't do what I did, he's hearing all about it. Our family and friends are hearing all about it. There's a different type of pressure.
The Denver Broncos select Chad Kelly.
If you take out the medical and the character, he's a first or second round quarterback all day long.
I never wanted to put that pressure on him, but he already knew that, you know, playing football, wearing number 12, having that name, that's going to follow him everywhere he goes.
The Broncos have released quarterback Chad Kelly in the wake of his arrest for criminal trespassing.
On Tuesday night at Von Miller's party, do you need to get blackout? Do you need to get so destroyed you're muttering to yourself?
Was there ever times you wanted to be anonymous, a little more anonymous than you were?
Yeah, of course, but you know, it comes with it.
John Elway, the general manager, had stuck his neck out a little bit to draft Kelly, so there was a little bit of anger.
Were there times that you had to give him tough love?
But you don't want to be too hard on him. You want him to grow up. You want him to learn. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way. We all have.
Chad Kelly hasn't been in the NFL since 2020. He spent some time in Scuba, Mississippi. Population 732. On the coaching staff of East Mississippi Community College.
I got to see how guys worked, and I got reminded of, man, you worked so hard to get to this point. Why would you just say enough's enough when you have an opportunity to go play again?
Toronto may only be a 2-hour drive from Buffalo, but for Chad, it feels like a different world. Here, there is no past, only a future.
I'm more focused than I've ever been.
In his second CFL season, Chad Kelly has been named starting quarterback of the 2023 Toronto Argonauts.
To be honest with you, I would not be doing this interview if he was in the same situation that he was in a couple years ago. I wouldn't have wanted to do it. There's times that he did not listen to Uncle Jim, but I think he understands he don't need to listen to Uncle Jim. He just needs to, in his own mind, take care of his own business. Chad has all the potential to be able to come out of this on top. But it's up to him. It's not up to Uncle Jim anymore. It's totally in his shoulders. But I do have confidence that he can do it.
Whether it's partying or people, the 29-year-old says he has eliminated the distractions in his life.
Getting rid of the distractions is not just a once in a day or once, you know, every couple weeks or month or year. It's every day. Sometimes it can get really hard, but you know, you have a great support group and family and friends to lean on, no matter if you're not in NFL or if you're in NFL. I've also had an opportunity to really study myself internally, you know, the past 2 years, investing in my mental health. I think I've just been blessed to be in a situation where I've been able to grow.
You went from college to last November without having an offense in your hands when it mattered. And you got one when it mattered as much as it can ever matter in football. Fourth quarter, championship game, trailing by 6.
A quarterback changes well for Toronto with Kelly in. And that one is complete. Kelly's out slinging it right now. Couple of completions.
He looks sharp coming off the bench.
I couldn't believe the situation I was in, that I was getting to play for the Grey Cup in my first year.
And that was the follow-through by McLeod Bethel Thompson. They were taping his thumb.
You know, I'm the backup quarterback, and like Uncle Jim always says, you're one play away, right?
2nd and 15, Chad Kelly. Close to 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Tries to take off, and he does. Kelly's still going. And a big first down.
This is a great run by Chad Kelly.
I was 10 times more nervous for him than it was for me in Super Bowl 25 with 2 minutes to go in the game, having to lead my team down the field and getting field goal range to win.
A.J. Olette breaks free, has another touchdown. The dynasty is denied, and one of the oldest trophies in Canada's history will go to one of its oldest franchises. The Toronto Argonauts have won the 2022 Grey Cup.
I wanted to know where the Tron Royal was. I wanted to coach my nephew just won the Grey Cup. His mom and dad are so proud of him.
How many teams are now looking at Chad Kelly differently?
The story is not over. It's just getting started.
Jim, you know Chad Kelly better than anyone on this panel. I know you've praised his talent for a very long time. Do you think he is now ready to be this starting quarterback?
Well, if you learn from your mistakes, he's made plenty of them and he knows it. But I would evaluate him on, since I met him, you know, it's an amazing story. First day I ever met Chad, he comes in and he knows Argo history. He knows CFL history. He knows old players that played here back when. It was one of the most amazing things ever. All season long, I watched him work with the second unit against the starting defense. He's one of the most physically, one of the most accurate. He sees the field differently than most quarterbacks, and I've had some great ones. I worked with Calvillo and Ricky Ray and Doug Flutie. He sees the field like the great ones do. He sees things other quarterbacks don't see. His thing is, can he mentally stay focused? There's nobody who works harder. He's exactly like Flutie. Flutie would be there. I'd get there at 6, and Flutie had already been there for an hour. You know, Chad's a lot the same way. He works hard at it. It's very, very important to him, and he's kept his mouth shut this whole off season, which I was surprised, but he's done it, and now he gets his chance. He gets his chance to show whether Chad Kelly's ready to do the things that he can do.
You know what? Maturity goes a long way. Maybe just growing up and now winning the Grey Cup, it'll finally all come together for him. Coming up after the break, two teams that went the wrong way last season. The panel breaks down how they think Ottawa and Edmonton will fare this season. Elks making a huge splash in the offseason. The biggest new star comes in wideout Geno Lewis, joining from the Alouettes. He's coming off a career season, hauling in 91 receptions for 1,303 yards and 10 touchdowns. Look, Geno Lewis isn't going to solve everything for the Elks this season, but it will be a huge boost to this offense. Ches, tell me this team's going to get a home win. Please. Please.
They will. I guarantee they get a home win.
I love this.
One of the signings for me that was huge in the offseason was AC Leonard. That's AC Leonard is obviously he's a great pass rusher, but you know the way they could use him and Chris Jones can use him as a chess piece. You saw a lot of three-man rush last year, and teams are starting to see more of it. And another topic with the quarterbacks and a lot of new guys, some young guys, I expect a lot more three-man pressure and dropping more guys into coverage this year. But that's for another show. If you look at AC Leonard, he's got a lot of wiggle. If they go three-man front, line him up as a linebacker, bring him in all sort of different places up against centers and guards. I just think he's a great chess piece for Chris Jones in that defense. You look at their secondary, some big physical young guys that we don't know about. Thompson, DeGray, some guys might have some new faces. Interested and excited to see these guys.
Almost guaranteed to have new faces
with Chris Jones. Guys,
right? They're going to learn how to stop the run, you know, and maybe that three-man rush was part of that.
Morgan is a beast as well. One of the best linebackers in the game.
Couldn't agree more. I know Jones is going to be working hard to shore up that defense. Offensively, I think Taylor Cornelius, with the second year of taking the reins, this football team is going to be much improved. And you throw over receivers such as Stephen Dunbar and the addition of Eugene Lewis, along with the Dylan Mitchell, who had such a promising rookie season. There's only one football. That's the problem. And Taylor's going to have to be very smart with it. And then you pound it with Kevin Brown, who was the spark for them last year. Well, I like what I see offensively here. And to your point, Kate, about hopefully getting a home win, I think that's going to happen. I think it's happened often. I think this team is going to turn it around. I think they're at the cusp of making that happen.
They had 4 victories last year. I'm predicting at least 9 or 10. Chris Jones always has success in his second year. Remember his first year in Edmonton? That next year, what did he do? He won the Grey Cup. His first year in Saskatchewan, they were bad. I think 4 or 5 victories. That next year, they had double digits. And we talk about all the additions, but I want to talk about a guy, and you mentioned that was already been there last year. Dylan Mitchell. G. Roy Simon, their assistant GM, he might as well be the GM. He's doing a bunch of work. But he tells me that this guy is a beast. He will be a top receiver in this league when the year is done, as long as he stays healthy. So he's excited about this guy. They have other additions. Talk about Eugene, you talk about Dunbar, but Dylan Mitchell is that guy.
Hey, be clear that he didn't tell you he should be the GM. He's doing all the work. Be clear that he didn't tell you that.
No, he didn't. No. I just know. Chris Jones has 19 jobs, so no, he didn't say that. G-Roy, he didn't say that.
All right, from one 4-win team to another in the Ottawa Red Blacks, expectations absolutely monstrous for this team, and we're all excited to see Jeremiah Masoli. The question is, when are we going to see Jeremiah Masoli, Coach?
Wow, that is the question in Ottawa. He was brought there last year to bring them excitement, and he did that. The fan base in Ottawa was excited. They played great 4 games. He gets the unfortunate dirty play that happened to him. His injury's different than most. You know, it's not an ankle or a knee or an ACL, so it's impossible to predict. Smartly, Bob Dice and Sean Burke are putting this decision in Jeremiah's hands. What he has, a broken leg. It got infected during the rehabilitation process, and it's taken time. I went and watched him at practice, and I was with Jeremiah in 2019, and he throws the ball amazing on the move. I thought in the pocket he looked fantastic, but moving off platform, he just looked a little tentative. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do in the first 2 games. Are they going to play him and put it out there for those first 2 games? Or are they going to let him sit, give him another because they have a 15-day break, give him another 30 days, Kate, and we'll see what happens. It's to me, it's Ottawa's season.
Well, patience running thin, too, with the Red Blacks fan base. All right, don't go anywhere. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. Our panel makes their Grey Cup prediction next. Taking a look at the FanDuel odds for who should win the Grey Cup this season. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers coming out on top at +180. Unfortunately, they're not giving a lot of love to the Elks at this point. I don't know how you should take this next segment because none of us predicted the Toronto Argos to win the Grey Cup last season. But, Coach, I know if you were here, you would have said that the Argonauts would have won. Who's winning it this year?
This year, I'm going to take the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. In the West, Zach Calero stays healthy. And in the East, because nobody took him last year, nobody's going to take him this year, I'm going to take the Toronto Argonauts.
Shocking.
In a shocker.
Who wins it?
And the Toronto Argonauts will go back-to-back.
Oh, my goodness.
In a shocker, Sask beats the Bombers in the West, and then they face the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Saskatchewan Roughriders win the Grey Cup.
Not a chance. Winnipeg, Montreal in the Grey Cup. Winnipeg is back on top.
Wow, surprise. I'm going to surprise you. No, I'm not. Winnipeg versus Hamilton.
Surprise.
Winnipeg is going to win. You think I would pick against Winnipeg even if I didn't think they were going to win? No, never.
I respect that.
I also had Winnipeg taking on Hamilton, but I have Bo Levi Mitchell and the Hamilton Tiger Cats finally breaking this drought. Thank you for watching the 2023 CFL Season Preview Show on TSN. The season gets going Thursday night.